This election is amazing because it shows you such a contrast between two different people. One with a lot of international experience. So the reason Donald Trump oftentimes looks like he's frustrated is because he's got international experience. So given his branding, his marketing, he can walk into almost any city in the East, or really almost any city in the West as well, and get a hotel up and running faster than most people. And so part of that is the ability to understand who in government is on his side. And right now, obviously, that's a bit difficult because both parties in the United States aren't really on his side. And so you see a lot of lashing out and so on and so forth. Now, when you have a lot of money, as Donald Trump does, and you're bringing a lot of money into any economy, you expect to be able to get through all the red tape. And in other words, you expect, because you're paying more, just like an airline, you buy, a different kind of ticket that gets you in front of the line. And that's obviously a lot different than the Democratic Party, which is a party of lawyers. And the party of lawyers exists primarily because they set up roadblocks that allow them to pick and choose who goes through and, on the other side. And obviously they've got a lot of money, right? And in the last election, Biden actually had more money than Trump. And we're talking billions of dollars in federal election donations. Part of Biden's largesse was because of Bloomberg, who came in, who's also a billionaire, who quite frankly should run. But, interesting, he's also from New York. He would easily win if he actually jumped in on the Democratic ticket. But anyway, he used to be a Republican and so on and so forth, so a bit complicated. But so you can see the Democratic Party has an interesting take on America First. Because what's really happened is that the United States, on the Democratic side, has a better relationship with a lot of countries because it says, or at least mentally, well, we've done it this way in the United States, whatever it is, right? Regulation, which a lot of which, by the way, is copied from the EU, especially Elizabeth Warren's office. You take a look at what she does. In many cases, it's almost a copy and paste of something from the EU. So, but it works, right? So why not? So overall, right? The Democratic Party says, we're going to give you a loan, kind of like, let's think Ukraine, right? We'll give you a loan. We've done it this way before, whether, with Ukraine, it's Poland or some other country, right? And, we think it's good for you. It's America's first. We've done it before. We'll just project our way of life onto you and our style and our businesses onto you. And again, same concept, right? You're a foreign country, trade in oil and other necessary items is in the US dollar. So someone comes to you with a lot of money, even though it's a loan, again, it's probably on a very favorable term, lower interest rate, whatnot, in exchange for making sure American corporations go overseas and Americans, get their technological standard implemented and so on and so forth. So at the end of the day, right, it's not really all that different. It's just a different style. And, what's really interesting is how similar these two people are when you look at their policies. Now, Donald Trump a few weeks ago came out in favor of the digital assets. He wanted to make, he's more bombastic. He wanted to make the United States the number one, right? So that's his marketing. He's a marketer. Number one in cryptocurrency, the destination, so on and so forth. Today or yesterday, Kamala Harris says the same thing. I'm going to, encourage digital assets. A little bit more subdued, but the same concept. Child tax credit. J.D. Vance mentioned that. Kamala Harris's team, within a few days, I think, had the same policy, but upped it by, I think, $1,000, a child tax credit. You look at these people, fracking. Again, something you would think there might be a difference there, right? If you've seen documentaries, particularly, I think there was one with Matt Damon involved and so on and so forth, or Hollywood, the ones that are really supporting the Democratic Party. You would think there would be a difference. No, because Pennsylvania is the key to victory in this particular election, and Pennsylvania jobs, a lot of those jobs are still blue collar. So again, Kamala Harris, right, says before, well, I've got values and so on, but, nothing's changed on my values. But I said before that we're not going to frack. Now I'm saying something completely different. Who do you believe? And the other issue really is, well, first of all, neither one of them have values, right? That's the first thing you want to understand. But with Trump, his values are a little bit more transparent, right? He does want to create a system that gets through red tape. Now, whether or not he's going to be able to do it is completely, up for grabs, right? Nobody really knows. Certainly failed in his first administration in trying to create something would be business friendly and ended up running up a lot of debt, just like the Democrats and so on and so forth. So when you're looking at all these different sort of, when you're looking at this political contest, hopefully you can see past the rhetoric, because if you look at the policies, they're the same, just sort of same people, different styles. But the difference really, again, is that Donald Trump does seem, to the extent that he's able to put in different people in this administration, he might actually have a chance to get things done. And what I think is really interesting is, I studied law. The smartest Supreme Court justice in my lifetime is somebody who was appointed by Donald Trump. Neil, Gorsuch. I hope I'm pronouncing his name right. There's no question he might be the greatest Supreme Court justice in the history of the United States. And, it's amazing that the Democratic Party, remember, this is the party of lawyers. They were not able to put someone like that or identify someone like that and put him on the court. It shows you just how partisan people are. Even when Gorsuch he's not really partisan. He's really independent. That's what makes him so special. It's not unusual to see him he and Sotomayor on the same side. And so, again, what you see is something where Donald Trump has a right idea, but it's not, his execution is not very good. Last point that I wanted to make is ultimately, right, with Donald Trump, you see how he's trying to cut through the red tape. With the Democratic Party, you see how that sort of that style. I'm going to go to some foreign country, usually a developing country, and tell them how it's done, because you want to be like us. You're developing, we're developed. Do it our way. We'll give you the money in debt, and we'll all be Americans in the end. So it really is an America First strategy, right? It's just with debt, which is also what Donald Trump relies on. But here's the difference: when you try to do the same thing within your own country, right? When you come in with that top 10% attitude, well, we know how it's done. We're the lawyers. Trust us. Go to school, spend $40,000 on a degree, and we'll help. Things will work out. Well, when you try to project that same kind of attitude onto the domestic population, it doesn't work. People look at you and say, "Wait a second, you're not necessarily better than I am. Why are you telling me what to do? Show me, right? Prove to me that you have the expertise that before you try to actually come in there and tell me how things are done." And that's where the Democratic Party is as bad at communication as the Republican Party. Neither one of them can communicate very well, and that's, again, a consequence of not having competent journalists and competent writers. When the newspapers went away, so did the writers. I grew up with so many smart people. Thomas Sowell, Molly Ivins, Jim Hightower, both sides. It wasn't really about Mike Royko out of Chicago. These people were brilliant. The older generation, Hunter Thompson. Again, you've got all these people coming in that can help you identify what's going on, regardless of what their affiliation is. And we've lost that in the United States. So that's one of the reasons why, we're having such a problem with this election, even though, right, fundamentally, these two people, Kamala Harris and Donald Trump, they're really just the same. Neither one of them is really going to change anything fundamental. With the tariffs, Donald Trump recently said, well, I'm going to block all cars made in Mexico from coming to the United States. Well, remember, he's a businessman. That's a negotiation starting point. You shut him down using what leverage you have, and then you create, terms and conditions that are favorable to your allies, or in this case, bondholders or whatnot, or supporters and so on. So that's a starting position. That's something else that a lot of pundits don't really understand. It's just shocking how far a country can fall when it fails to support independent journalism.